Mom's hands trembled as she reached for the teacup, and I instinctively steadied it before the chamomile could slosh over the rim. These moments had become our nightly ritual. Me perched on the edge of her antique armchair, her wrapped in the powder blue throw that still smelled like her favorite fabric softener. I'm Callie, and for the past decade, I've been the one who stayed. The one who quit her marketing career, broke off an engagement, and moved back home to become my mother's full-time caregiver. Not that my siblings saw it that way. To them, I was just doing what came naturally to the middle child, being useful. "This house," Mom said that night, her voice clearer than it had been in weeks. "It'll be yours someday, sweetheart, for everything you've given up." I smiled and squeezed her shoulder, but something in her eyes seemed distant, like she was already drifting away to wherever her mind went these days. The doctors called it early-onset dementia. I called it watching my mother disappear in slow motion. "Did you take your evening medication?" I asked, already knowing the answer from the untouched pills in the organizer. "Violet called today," she said instead, changing the subject. "She's doing so well with her new gallery. Such a go-getter, that girl." I bit back the urge to mention that Violet hadn't actually visited in 8 months. "That's nice, Mom. Here, let's get these pills down." The phone rang just then. Speak of the devil. Violet's name flashed on the caller ID. "Hey, sis," I answered, trying to keep the exhaustion out of my voice. "I was just getting Mom ready for bed." "Oh, good. You're there," Violet chirped, as if I might be anywhere else. "Listen, I need you to talk some sense into her about the Peterson painting. She promised it to me years ago, but Mac says she told him he could have it last Christmas." I watched Mom's eyelids growing heavy as she drifted off in her chair. "Can we discuss this another time? It's late here." "You always say that. Just because you're playing nurse doesn't mean you get to make all the decisions." Playing nurse. 10 years of 24/7 care reduced to playing nurse. I hung up without responding. That was 3 days before Mom died. She went peacefully in her sleep, which was more than I could say for the aftermath. Mac flew in from Seattle the next morning, all Brooks Brothers suit and corporate concern. Violet arrived an hour later, designer sunglasses hiding what I suspected were completely dry eyes. The funeral was exactly what Mom would have wanted. Intimate, elegant, with just enough flowers to be tasteful but not ostentatious. I stood between my siblings as the minister spoke, feeling like a bridge about to collapse under impossible weight. "At least she came through for us in the end," I overheard Violet whisper to Mac during the reception. They were huddled by the coffee service, picking at finger sandwiches I'd stayed up all night preparing. Mac nodded, that familiar smug smile playing at his lips. "Good thing we had those talks with her. Callie means well, but you know how she gets about boundaries." I froze, coffee pot halfway to a guest's cup. "Talks? What talks?" "Ladies and gentlemen," Soleil, Mum's attorney, called out softly from the doorway. "If the family could join me in the study, we have some matters to discuss." I set down the coffee pot with trembling hands. My own this time, not Mum's. As I followed my siblings down the familiar hallway, past the family photos that tracked our evolution from gap-toothed kids to polished adults, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The study still smelled like Mom's perfume. I took my usual spot on the leather ottoman while Violet and Mac claimed the matching wingback chairs. Soleil settled behind the desk, pulling out a thick envelope with "Last Will and Testament" printed in severe black letters. "Before we begin," Soleil said, adjusting her glasses, "Jennifer wanted me to share something with you all." She produced a smaller envelope, cream-colored and sealed with wax. She wrote this the day she finalized her will. My heart stuttered. Mom's handwriting on the envelope looked shaky, uncertain, nothing like the elegant script I remembered from my childhood. As Soleil began to read, I noticed Violet and Mac exchange a quick glance, something almost like victory passing between them. I should have known then what was coming. But even after 10 years of watching Mum slip away, I still wasn't prepared for her final betrayal. The house, Soleil read from Mum's letter, represents everything I hold dear about family. She paused, adjusting her glasses. It should remain a gathering place, a sanctuary for all my children. My stomach clenched. That didn't sound like Mom, at least not the Mom I'd known for the past decade. Those words had Violet's theatrical flair all over them. As such, Soleil continued, while I leave the property to my daughter Callie, this bequest comes with conditions. Mac leaned forward, his expensive watch catching the afternoon light. Conditions that we all agreed were necessary, he added smoothly. Soleil shot him a look that could have frozen hell. Please let me finish. She cleared her throat and continued reading. Callie will assume full ownership, with the understanding that she will maintain the property at her own expense, while ensuring both Violet and Mac retain unlimited access and usage rights. The room went silent. I could hear the antique grandfather clock in the hall, ticking away seconds of my life I'd never get back. I'm sorry, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You're saying I get all the responsibility and expenses, while they get to treat it like their personal hotel? Mum wanted to make sure we wouldn't be shut out, Violet interjected, her voice dripping with fake concern. You know how you can be, Callie. So territorial. Right. Because setting boundaries after watching them swan in twice a year with their criticism and demands was being territorial. There's more, Soleil said, holding up a hand to prevent further interruption. The property cannot be sold or significantly altered without unanimous consent from all 3 siblings. Additionally, Callie must maintain residence here for a minimum of 5 years after inheriting. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound bounced off the wood-paneled walls, slightly hysterical. So I'm basically being handed a prison sentence. Don't be dramatic, Max said, rolling his eyes. You're getting a valuable piece of property. That I can't sell, can't modify, and have to maintain while you 2 come and go as you please? I stood up, my legs surprisingly steady. How exactly is that a gift? It's what Mom wanted, Violet said, her voice hard. She told us specifically, multiple times. Something clicked in my mind. All those mysterious visits when I was at doctor's appointments with Mom, the whispered phone calls, the way they'd both seemed so confident lately. I reached for my phone. What are you doing? Mac asked, tension creeping into his voice. I smiled, scrolling through my contacts. Making a call. I hit the green button and put the phone to my ear, maintaining eye contact with my brother. Hi, Malachi. Go ahead and list it. List what? Violet shrieked, jumping to her feet. You can't list anything. The will clearly states... I held up my hand, mimicking Soleil's earlier gesture. Yes, full marketing package. Professional photos tomorrow if possible. I ended the call and tucked my phone away. That's not legal, Max sputtered, his corporate calm cracking. Soleil, tell her she can't do this. Soleil cleared her throat. Actually, until the will is executed and the property formally transferred, the estate remains in probate. During this period, as the executor, Callie has certain rights. You planned this, Violet accused, pointing a manicured finger at me. You've been planning this all along. I thought about the last 10 years, the missed opportunities, the lonely nights, the constant criticism. I thought about Mum's lucid moments, when she'd promised me the house would be my reward. And I thought about the whispered conversation I'd overheard 3 months ago, when Mac had told Mum that adjusting her will was the only way to protect the family legacy. You know what's funny? I said, gathering my purse. You 2 were so busy manipulating Mom, you forgot to check if the house was even still in her name. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Soleil? you might want to look into when exactly Mom started showing signs of cognitive decline. I have 10 years of medical records that make for fascinating reading. The chaos that erupted behind me as I walked out was better than any revenge I could have planned. But it wasn't revenge I was after. Not really. This was about justice, and I'd learned from the best how to play the long game. I pulled out my phone again as I reached my car, dialing a different number. Hey, it's me. You were right about everything. Meet me at our spot in 20 minutes. We have some paperwork to go over. The game was on, and for the first time in a decade, I was finally playing to win. The coffee shop was our secret spot, tucked away in a converted Victorian house on the edge of town. Malachi was already waiting at our usual corner table, 2 steaming mugs in front of him. "You look like you could use something stronger than coffee," he said, pushing my cup toward me. I sank into the worn leather chair. "You have no idea." Though, I have to admit, their faces were priceless. Malachi, my secret fiancé of 6 months, reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Most people saw him as just another ruthless property developer, but I knew better. He'd been my lifeline this past year, helping me prepare for every possible scenario after Mum's death. "Did you bring the papers?" I asked. He pulled out a manila envelope. "Deed transfer from 6 months ago, signed by your mother during a completely lucid period, witnessed by Dr. Patterson and notarized. The house has been in your name since then." "And they have no idea," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "All those conversations they had with Mom about the will, thinking they were so clever, while you were 10 steps ahead." Malachi's eyes crinkled with pride. "The listing goes live tomorrow morning. I've already had 3 inquiries from developers who follow my company's movements." My phone buzzed. Violet again. I declined the call and switched to speaker just as her text came through. "You ungrateful bitch. Mom would be ashamed." "Charming as ever," Malachi commented. Another buzz. "Check your email, now." I opened my inbox to find a message from Mac, copied to his lawyer. The threat of legal action was wrapped in corporate jargon, but the message was clear. Back down, or else. "They're bluffing," Malachi said, reading over my shoulder. "They have no grounds." "Oh, I know." I pulled out my phone and played the video I'd recorded 3 months ago. Mom's voice, though weak, was clear as she signed the deed transfer. "I want you to have it now, Callie, while I can still make the choice myself, before they try to change things again." "What do you mean, Mom?" "Matt keeps bringing his financial advisor, making me sign things. I get so confused sometimes, but I'm clear right now. The house is yours." Malachi whistled low. "That's not the only recording you have, is it?" I shook my head. "I learned from the best. Every time they visited Mom when they thought I was out, every phone call on speaker, every whispered conversation about securing their interests. I got it all." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Soleil. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Callie, I've been reviewing some concerning documents," she said without preamble. "There's a codicil to your mother's will, written about 2 months ago. The handwriting is questionable. Let me guess. It's about the house?" "Yes. And there are some irregular financial transactions I think you should know about. Large consultancy fees paid to both Mac and Violet over the past year. Would you be able to come to my office tomorrow morning?" I caught Malachi's eye. This was exactly what we'd been waiting for. "Of course," I replied. "I'll bring my mother's medical records. And Soleil? You might want to look into a financial advisor named Isaias. He had several private meetings with Mom in her final months." After hanging up, I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of 10 years starting to lift. You know what the worst part is? They really thought I was just going to roll over and take it. Poor, dutiful Callie, always doing what's expected. Malachi's expression hardened. They forgot that watching someone you love being manipulated for years tends to teach you a few things about playing the game. My phone lit up with another call. Mac again. This time, I answered. "Listen here, little sister," he started, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Whatever you think you're doing, no, you listen." I cut in. "Check your email in 5 minutes. You'll find some interesting audio files from Mum's last few months. Pay special attention to the one from March 15th. You know, when you and Isaias convinced her to sign those transfer documents while she was on heavy medication." Silence. Oh, and Mac. Mum might have been confused near the end, but I wasn't. Not for a single moment. I hung up and looked at Malachi. "Ready to go look at mountain properties? I think it's time we started planning our next move." He stood, gathering our things. "Lead the way. Though I have to ask, what made you start recording everything in the first place?" I thought about all those nights watching Mom sleep, wondering if she'd remember who I was in the morning. Because someone had to protect her, even if it was from her own children. The truth was, I'd learned more about karma in the past 10 years than most people learn in a lifetime. And karma, I'd discovered, works best when you give it a little help. The listing photos went live at 9 a.m. sharp. By 9:05, Violet was screaming into my voicemail. "Take it down right now!" Her voice cracked with hysteria. "I swear to God, Callie, I will destroy you if you don't remove that listing." I was already at Soleil's office, reviewing the financial documents she'd discovered. The numbers told an interesting story, one that made my blood boil. "These consulting fees," Soleil said, pointing to a series of transactions. "50,000 to Violet's gallery, 75,000 to Mac's investment fund, all in the last 8 months of your mother's life." When she could barely remember what day it was, I added, my voice flat. The office door burst open. Violet stormed in, her face flushed, followed by an equally agitated Mac. "You had no right!" Violet slammed her designer handbag on Soleil's desk. "That house isn't just yours to sell." "Actually," I said, sliding the deed across the desk, "it is." Max snatched up the paper, his face darkening as he read. "This can't be legal. Mum wasn't in her right mind. Funny you should mention that." I pulled out my laptop. "Should we review the video from the day she signed this? The one where her doctor certified her competency? Or maybe we should discuss these interesting bank transfers instead?" The color drained from Mac's face. Violet's hand trembled as she reached for the financial records. "Those were legitimate consulting fees," Mac said quickly. "For estate planning." "Estate planning?" I laughed. "Is that what we're calling emotional manipulation now?" "You don't understand," Violet cut in. "Mom wanted to secure our future. She knew you'd try to shut us out." "Like you shut me out for 10 years? I opened a video file on my laptop. "Let's watch this from last Christmas. You know, when you told Mom I was stealing her jewelry." The recording played, showing Violet whispering to our heavily medicated mother. "Callie's been taking your things, Mom. That's why you can't find your diamond bracelet. We need to protect your assets." "Turn it off," Violet whispered. "Oh, there's more," I said, clicking to another file. "Here's Mac explaining to Mum why she needed to adjust her will. Something about protecting the family legacy by making sure I couldn't sell the house." Mac's corporate facade cracked. "You recorded everything? I learned from you, big brother. Always keep receipts, right?" The door opened again, and Malachi walked in. Violet's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "Malachi Gray, property developer." He smiled, all business. "And Callie's fiancé." "Fiancé?" Violet sputtered. "Since when?" "Since 6 months ago." I stood up. "Turns out I had a life while you weren't paying attention. Now, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. The house is being sold. Your choice is to accept that gracefully, or have these records become very, very public." "You're bluffing," Max said. but his voice wavered. I pulled out one final envelope. Remember Isaias, your financial advisor? He's been very chatty with the State Banking Commission about some irregular transactions. Something about elder financial abuse? The silence in the room was deafening. You wouldn't, Violet whispered. We're family. Family? I leaned forward. Family doesn't manipulate their mother's confusion for profit. Family doesn't gaslight their sister for 10 years. Family shows up. What do you want? Mac asked, his voice hollow. Simple. Stop fighting the sale. Sign whatever disclaimers Soleil prepares. Walk away. Or what? Or I send everything. The videos, the financial records, the medical reports, to the district attorney's office. Elder abuse is a serious crime, Mac. How would that look to your clients? Violet collapsed into a chair, mascara running. You've ruined everything. No, I said quietly. You did that yourselves. I'm just finally standing up. Malachi placed a stack of papers on the desk. Disclaimers of interest in the property. Sign them now, and this all stays private. Mac reached for a pen first, his hand shaking slightly. Violet followed, sobbing dramatically. As they fled the office, Soleil spoke for the first time in several minutes. You know, your mother left me a private letter, asked me to give it to you when the time was right. She pulled an envelope from her desk. I think now qualifies. I took the letter but didn't open it. Some truths could wait. Ready to go home? Malachi asked softly. I nodded, gathering my things. Home. Not the house that had been my prison for 10 years, but somewhere new, somewhere without ghosts. My phone buzzed with a text from the listing agent. 3 offers already, all over asking price. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and sometimes justice comes with a price tag. The home inspector's boots left dusty footprints on the attic floor as he moved his flashlight across the rafters. Foundation's solid, but you've got some electrical work that needs updating. He paused, beam of light catching something in the corner. What's that? I followed his gaze to a small door I'd never noticed, partially hidden behind old Christmas decorations. No idea. Mum never mentioned it. Mind if I take a look? I nodded, and he pried open the door with a crowbar. Inside was a metal lockbox, covered in decades of dust. Well, that's interesting, Malachi said from behind me. He'd come over to review the inspection findings, but this was unexpected. The box was heavy, its key long lost. Malachi carried it downstairs to the kitchen, where better light revealed a familiar monogram, J.W., Jennifer Warner. Mom. I can have a locksmith here in an hour, Malachi offered. No need. I reached up to the top of the kitchen cabinet, feeling around until my fingers found the small key taped there. Mum's emergency key hiding spot, one of the many things I'd learned during our years together. The lock clicked open. Inside, beneath stacks of old photos and documents, lay a leather-bound journal. My hands trembled as I opened it to the first page, dated just 2 years ago. I'm afraid, Mum's elegant handwriting declared. Not of dying, that's coming whether I'm ready or not. I'm afraid of what Mac and Violet are becoming, of what I've helped create. Malachi squeezed my shoulder as I continued reading. They visit more now, but only when Callie's out. Always with papers to sign, decisions to make. Mac brings his financial advisor, Isaias, who speaks so fast I can barely follow. I sign things. I don't always understand what. The inspector cleared his throat awkwardly. I'll just continue upstairs. I barely noticed him leave, too engrossed in Mum's words. Violet says Callie's trying to control everything, to push them away, but Callie's the only one who's here, who sees me through the bad days. The others, they want the house, the money, the control. I'm just a signature to them now. My phone buzzed. Soleil. You need to come to the office, she said without preamble. Now, bring the journal if you found it. How did you? Your mother told me where it was. Just come. 30 minutes later, we sat in Soleil's office while she reviewed the journal's later entries. Her face grew grimmer with each page. This confirms what I suspected, she said finally. Your mother was being coerced. Look at this entry from 3 months ago. She pointed to a shaky paragraph. Mac says I have to change the will. Says Callie can't be trusted with full ownership. Isaias brought more papers. My head hurts. I don't want to sign, but they won't leave until I do. There's more, I said, flipping to a later entry. About the consulting fees. Soleil nodded. Those payments were unauthorized. Isaias processed them without proper documentation. I've already reported him to the state board. A knock at the door interrupted us. A tall man in a suit entered, someone I recognized from photos in Mac's office. Isaias, Malachi said coldly. Bit far from your usual hunting grounds. Isaias ignored him, focusing on me. Mac sent me to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate, I replied. 10% of the sale price, he offered, to keep certain irregularities private. I laughed. You mean your fraudulent transactions? The ones I've already reported to the banking commission? His confident smile faltered. You don't want this fight, Callie. Things could get messy. Already are, Malachi said, sliding a folder across the desk. These are copies of every transaction you processed for Jennifer Warner in the past 2 years. Care to explain the offshore transfers? Isaias's face went pale. Those were authorized. By whom? Soleil interrupted. A woman with documented cognitive decline? Or by Mac, who didn't have power of attorney? Get out, I said quietly. And tell my brother that if he sends one more person to threaten me, I'm releasing everything. Every recording, every forged document, every manipulated conversation. Let's see how his clients react to that. After Isaias fled, Soleil pulled out a fresh legal pad. We need to document everything. The journal, the transactions, the coercion. This isn't just about the house anymore. It never was, I said, thinking of Mom's written words. It was about power, control. They thought they had both. And now, Malachi asked. I opened the journal to its final entry, dated just weeks before Mom died. I hope Callie understands someday. I hope she knows I tried to fix it. The house is hers, signed over properly this time. My last clear choice, my last chance to make something right. Now, I said, closing the journal, we make sure the truth comes out. All of it. The certified letters arrived at Mac and Violet's homes simultaneously, 9 a.m. sharp. I imagined their faces as they opened the court summons, the color draining as they read the allegations. Elder abuse, financial fraud, coercion. My phone rang within minutes. Mac, of course. Have you lost your mind? He shouted, his corporate calm completely shattered. Do you know what this could do to my career? Funny, I was just wondering what manipulating our dying mother did to your soul. It wasn't like that. Save it for the judge, I cut in. Oh, and check your email. The IRS is particularly interested in those consulting fees you received. I hung up as Malachi walked into the kitchen, waving a stack of papers. 3 more offers on the house, one significantly over asking. Let me guess, your development company? He grinned. Through a shell corporation. They'll never know it's us. The doorbell rang. Violet stood there, mascara already running. You have to stop this, she pleaded. My gallery's investors are asking questions. The press is calling. Calm as a bitch, isn't it? I started to close the door, but she jammed her foot in. I'm your sister. Really? Where was that sisterly love when Mom needed us? When I was changing her clothes, managing her medications, watching her slip away while you were off at gallery openings. I had a life, and I didn't. My voice cracked. I put everything on hold for 10 years. My career, my relationships, my future. And you two swooped in at the end to manipulate her into changing her will? We were protecting our interests. You were stealing from our mother. I pulled out my phone, playing one of the recordings. Mum's confused voice filled the air. Violet, please, I don't understand these papers. Where's Callie? Violet's voice responded. Callie's trying to take everything, Mum. Just sign here. Trust me. I stopped the playback. Want to hear the one where you told her I was stealing her jewelry? Or maybe the one where you and Mac convinced her I was mismanaging her medication? Those recordings aren't admissible. Wrong again. Malachi appeared behind me. Single-party consent state. Everything's admissible. Violet's face hardened. You planned this. All of it. No, I protected myself. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Soleil. The judge granted the emergency injunction, she said without preamble. All their assets are frozen pending investigation. Violet's eyes widened as she heard this. Her phone dinged with what I assumed was the same notification from her lawyer. You can't do this, she whispered. Already done. I stepped back. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a house showing in 20 minutes. After she left, Malachi pulled me into a hug. You okay? Better than okay. I showed him my phone, an email from the State Banking Commission confirming their investigation into Isaias and Mac. It's all falling into place. Your mother would be proud. Would she? I pulled away. Sometimes I wonder if I'm any better than them. The difference is, you're exposing the truth. They tried to bury it. My phone buzzed again, Mac's lawyer this time, requesting an emergency meeting to discuss settlement terms. No deals, I texted back. See you in court. The house showing went perfectly. The potential buyers, actually Malachi's company representatives, made all the right noises about preserving the property's character while modernizing the interior. As they left, I found another envelope from Soleil waiting in the mailbox. Inside was a document I'd never seen before, a letter from Mom to her doctor, dated 6 months before her death. I need to document my concerns about my children, Mac and Violet. They're pressuring me to make financial decisions I don't understand. Only Callie protects me, but I fear what they might do to her once I'm gone. Please keep this letter as evidence of my clear state of mind and my wishes. Malachi read it over my shoulder. This changes everything. No, I said, tucking the letter away safely. This confirms everything. And now... My phone lit up with a news alert. Mac's investment firm was under federal investigation. Violet's gallery investors were pulling out. Their carefully constructed worlds were crumbling, just like they'd tried to crumble mine. Ready for the next phase? Malachi asked. I looked around the house, my prison for 10 years, now my instrument of justice. Mom always said karma comes full circle, I replied. She just never specified who gets to draw that circle. The grandfather clock chimed in the hall, marking another hour. But for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't counting the hours until my next caregiving duty. I was counting down to victory. The courtroom fell silent as the judge adjusted her glasses, reviewing the final pieces of evidence. Mac sat with his lawyer, his usual polished appearance showing cracks, wrinkled suit, loosened tie. Violet hadn't even shown up. Based on the overwhelming evidence presented, the judge began, including Mrs. Warner's journal, medical records, financial documentation, and recorded conversations, this court finds the conditional clauses in the will unenforceable due to documented incapacity and clear evidence of coercion. I felt Malachi squeeze my hand under the table. Furthermore, the judge continued, the prior deed transfer to Callie Warner, executed during a period of documented mental clarity and properly witnessed, is hereby affirmed as valid and binding. Mac's lawyer leaned over to whisper something, but Mac shoved him away. "Your Honor," he started, standing up. "This will destroy my career. My reputation." "Should have thought about that before committing elder abuse," the judge cut in sharply. "You're fortunate your sister isn't pursuing criminal charges. Yet." She turned to me. "The property is yours, Ms. Warner, free and clear of all conditions and claims." Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered with cameras and microphones. I pushed through them to where Soleil waited by her car. "There's something else you should see," she said, pulling out a final envelope. "Your mother left this with strict instructions not to give it to you until after the court ruling." Inside was a single piece of paper, covered in Mom's shaky handwriting. "My dearest Callie, by now you know everything. The manipulation, the lies, the pressure. I was weak when I should have been strong, confused when I should have been clear. But in my final lucid moments, I made sure the house went to you legally, my last act of true clarity. I'm sorry for letting them hurt you. Sorry for not stopping them sooner. You were always the strong one, even when I couldn't be. All my love, Mom." A commotion drew my attention. Violet had finally appeared, pushing through reporters to reach us. "The gallery's finished," she said, her voice hollow. "Our biggest investor pulled out this morning. Said they can't be associated with elder abuse," I supplied. "Financial fraud? I never meant—" She stopped, seeming to deflate. "I don't know what I meant anymore. That's the problem, isn't it?" I tucked Mom's letter away. "You and Mac were so focused on what you could take, you forgot what you were losing." "And what about you?" she shot back. "Living in that house alone with your bitterness and revenge?" I laughed. "Who said anything about living there?" Right on cue, Malachi pulled up in his car, a sold sign visible in the back seat. "The house closes next week," I told her. "Being renovated into luxury apartments by my fiancé's company." Her face went pale. "Fiancé? Oh, right. You wouldn't know about that. Too busy plotting with Mac to notice I had a life." Malachi stepped out of the car, offering his hand to Violet. "Malachi Gray, property developer, and the new owner of your mother's house." "You can't—" "Already done," I cut in. "Papers signed this morning. You know, right after the judge's ruling." "Where will you go?" she asked, suddenly small. "We bought a place in the mountains, away from all this." I gestured vaguely at the reporters. "Away from you. Callie, please." "No." I held up my hand. "You don't get to beg now, not after everything. Go home, Violet. Go figure out how to live with what you did." As we drove away, I watched her shrinking figure in the side mirror. Malachi reached over and squeezed my hand. "Having second thoughts? About the house?" "No." I pulled out Mom's letter again. "About them? Maybe. They're still my siblings. Siblings who tried to steal your inheritance and manipulate your dying mother. True." I looked out at the passing city streets. "Did you know Mom used to say karma works in perfect circles? What goes around comes around, but it never looks quite like you expect." "Speaking of circles," Malachi said, "the renovation plans are ready. Want to see them?" I smiled, thinking of the grand old house transformed into something new, something untainted by manipulation and lies. "First," I said, "let's go home. Our home." As we turned onto the highway, my phone buzzed with a text from Mac. "I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything." I typed back a simple response. "No, you did that yourself. I just made sure everyone knew the truth." Then I turned off my phone, leaned back in my seat, and watched the city fade behind us. Sometimes karma needs a witness. Sometimes justice needs a voice. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, far away from those who tried to break you. The mountain air was crisp as I unlocked the antique jewelry box, the only thing I'd kept from Mum's house. Inside lay her favorite pearl necklace, still wrapped in the silk scarf she'd used to protect it. "Found something interesting?" Malachi asked, setting down his coffee on our deck overlooking the valley. "One last letter." I pulled out a yellowed envelope, tucked beneath the pearls. Must have been here all along. The local news played on Malachi's tablet. Mac's investment firm was dissolving amid federal investigations. Violet's gallery had been sold to cover debts. Their carefully constructed facades had crumbled completely. "Want me to give you some space?" Malachi asked as I turned the envelope over in my hands. "No. Stay." The letter was dated just weeks before Mom died. "Dearest Callie, if you're reading this, you've finally opened the jewelry box. I've been hiding things here for months. Evidence, letters, records, everything you might need to protect yourself. I was afraid of losing them, but I lost you instead. Every time I signed another paper, every time I let them pressure me, I was betraying the one child who truly cared. But you were never the helpless victim they thought you were you? I saw the quiet strength in you, the careful planning, the way you documented everything. You learned from watching them, didn't you? How to play the long game, how to wait for the right moment. I'm proud of you for that. Love always, Mom." The tablet chimed with a news alert. Isaias had agreed to testify against Mac in exchange for leniency. "Karma's not done with them yet," Malachi observed. My phone buzzed, a text from Violet. "I sold everything, moving to Arizona. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm sorry. Really sorry." For the first time, I believed her. "You know what Mom told me once?" I said, carefully refolding the letter. "She said revenge is like a boomerang. Throw it too hard, and it might hit you coming back." "Having regrets?" "No, just perspective." I picked up the pearl necklace. She knew what they were doing. She left breadcrumbs everywhere, the journal in the attic, the letters, the recording she pretended not to notice me making. She was protecting you in her own way, while I was protecting her. I fastened the pearls around my neck. We both played parts they never saw coming. The doorbell rang. Soleil, right on time. She carried a thick manila envelope. "Final paperwork from the house sale," she said, settling into a deck chair. "And something else you should see." She pulled out a newspaper clipping from the day Mom and Dad bought the house, 30 years ago. They stood proudly on the front steps, young and full of dreams. "Your mother gave me this last year," Soleil said. "Told me to remind you that houses are just buildings. Home is where you choose to build your future." I touched the pearls at my neck. She chose to give me a chance at a fresh start. "She chose to give you justice," Soleil corrected. "The rest was all you." My phone lit up again. An email from my publisher. The memoir I'd written about elder care, family betrayal, and redemption had just hit the bestseller list. Published under a pseudonym, of course. "Speaking of justice," Malachi said, showing me his tablet. The old house had been transformed into modern apartments, its character preserved but renewed, like me. "What now?" Soleil asked. I looked out at the mountains, touched the pearls again. "Now we live. We build something new. And we remember." "Remember what?" "That karma doesn't always wear brass knuckles. Sometimes it wears pearls and plays the long game." Soleil smiled, gathering her things. At the door, she paused. "Your mother would be proud, you know. Not of the revenge, of the strength." After she left, Malachi and I stood at the deck railing, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. "Ready to let it all go?" he asked softly. I thought about Mac and Violet, about Mom's hidden letters and quiet resistance, about 10 years of patience finally paying off. "You know what? I already have." I unclasped the pearl necklace, tucking it back in its box. Mom was right. Karma works in perfect circles. They drew theirs. I drew mine. And now? Now we draw new ones. Together. The mountain air carried away the last echoes of bitterness, leaving behind something better. Peace. Not the fake peace of swallowed anger, but the real peace of justice served and lessons learned. Sometimes the best endings aren't endings at all. They're just better beginnings,